Every NFL team has their strengths, parts of their roster or coaching staff that really gets fans excited about their team. But what is every team's biggest strength? In this video, I'm going to discuss what I think every NFL team's biggest strength is heading into the 2025 season. If you enjoyed this video, then please drop a like and subscribe if you're new. Subscribe, it takes just a second and it really helps me out. Thank you, and let's get started. Arizona Cardinals, the run game. The run game has been an identity of the Cardinals for a while now, and for good reason. Kyler Murray is one of the best rushing threats at the quarterback position and is always a threat to take a read option to the house. But James Conner is also really good, and I think he's one of the most underrated running backs in the league. The combination of Kyler plus Conner and even Trey Benson is really scary and is once again going to be a focal point of the Cardinals offense. Atlanta Falcons, the O-line. I could have gone with Bijan Robinson or the secondary, but ultimately I ended up deciding on the O-line for the Falcons, which is one of the best in the league. In 2024, the Falcons O-line was 9th in PFF pass blocking grade and 1st in PFF run blocking grade. Also, out of all quarterbacks that play at least 14 games, Kirk Cousins was pressured the least amount of times. They did lose Drew Dahlman in the offseason, but I think Ryan Nazul is a solid replacement at center. Overall, the Falcons have a great O-line, and that's going to make Michael Penix's development go a lot smoother. Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson. There's no need to overthink this one. What Lamar Jackson has done for the Ravens has been nothing short of spectacular. He's consistently been one of the top quarterbacks in the league ever since his 2019 MVP season, and I personally think he is right there with Josh Allen for the best quarterback in the league. You all know how good Lamar is, and as long as he's the quarterback for the Ravens, they will always be Super Bowl contenders. Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen. Another one where there's no need to overthink it. Josh Allen is truly amazing. I could basically say everything I said about Lamar and copy and paste it and say it about Allen. He's arguably the best quarterback in the league. He's the reigning MVP, and he can carry Buffalo on their back whenever he needs to. Like I said about Jackson, so long as Allen is the Bills quarterback, they will always be Super Bowl contenders. Carolina Panthers, offensive coaching. Panthers was a tough one because they are a team with lots of potential but don't really have a lot of current strengths. Ultimately, I decided on the offensive coaching because I think what Dave Canales has done for the Panthers so far has been nothing short of spectacular. He's helped Bryce Young go from bust to competing with Patrick Mahomes, and it's not like Young's supporting cast got all that much better from his rookie season. I really like Canales. I think he's one of the best young offensive minds in the league, and I can't wait to see what he and the Panthers offense do in 2025. Chicago Bears, offensive playmakers. This one was pretty easy. The Bears have once again formed one of the best groups of offensive playmakers in the league. They're 3 deep at receiver with DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and Luther Burden, and they have 2 talented tight ends in Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland. And while I do give DeAndre Swift a lot of shit, I will admit that he does make an explosive play every once in a while that really makes you go wow. The Bears group of playmakers on offense is really special, and with Ben Johnson now commanding that side of the ball instead of Shane Waldron, I expect the Bears offense to be one that is very tough to stop. Cincinnati Bengals, the passing game. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. The best quarterback receiving trio in the league, and I don't think it's close. Joe Burrow led the entire NFL in passing yards and passing touchdowns last season. Jamar Chase won the Triple Crown, and T. Higgins still put up nearly 1,000 yards despite playing just 12 games. This trio is deadly and will always keep the Bengals in games, no matter how bad their defense is. Cleveland Browns, pass rush. The Browns don't have a lot of strengths, but the pass rush is definitely their best. Obviously, you have to start with Myles Garrett, who is one of the best, if not the best edge rusher in the NFL. He by himself makes this pass rush dangerous. But the Browns also have 5th overall pick Mason Graham, who I really liked coming out of college, and I think he'll make a big impact in year 1. The Browns may not have a quarterback, but they certainly can get to the quarterback. Dallas Cowboys, the wide receivers. It was honestly harder than I thought picking a one definitive biggest strength for the Cowboys, but ultimately I settled on their wide receivers because after acquiring George Pickens, the Cowboys have one of the best wide receiving rooms in the league. Obviously, you have CeeDee Lamb, who is one of the best receivers in the NFL. George Pickens is a really good number 2, but they also have some nice depth. I think Jalen Tolbert is a really solid number 3, and Kevontae Turpin is one of the most explosive players in the NFL. Dak Prescott has a lot of nice options to throw to, and I expect all of these guys to produce. Denver Broncos, the secondary. I could have said the whole Broncos defense, but I thought that was a bit too general, so I decided to focus on the secondary. secondary, which is absolutely elite. Obviously, you have to start with Pat Surtain, who is the best corner in the league and the reigning defensive player of the year, but the rest of their secondary is great also. They brought in Talanoa Hufanga from the 49ers to pair up with Brandon Jones, who is one of the best coverage safeties in the league. They spent a first-round pick this year on Jahdae Barron, and Riley Moss is the second best white corner in the league. Actually though, Moss is super underrated and a great cornerback 3. The Broncos are going to be incredibly difficult to pass on, and this is overall an amazing secondary. Detroit Lions, the running backs. The Lions have a lot of strengths, but I think their defining one is the running back tandem of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. That is easily the best running back duo in the league, no questions asked. Gibbs is probably a top 5 running back in the NFL right now. His explosiveness is unparalleled, but Montgomery also is a really good back, and the combination of these two is incredibly difficult to stop. The offense has flowed through these two ever since Gibbs got drafted, and it will continue to flow through them in the future. Green Bay Packers, offensive coaching. Similar to the Panthers, I didn't feel like the Packers roster had many defining strengths, but their offensive coaching is some of the best in the league. Matt LaFleur is an elite offensive mind, and there's a reason why they've consistently had top offenses year in and year out, despite transitioning from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. LaFleur has made that transition seamless, and his scheming and overall offensive mind have elevated that side of the ball for years now. He is one of the best in the league and will continue to be so for a long while. Houston Texans, the edge rushers. This one wasn't too hard. When you have Will Anderson Jr. and Daniel Hunter on the same team, it's difficult for that not to be your biggest strength. Both of these guys are top tier edge rushers. Both Hunter and Anderson were top 25 in the league in pressures, and the Texans were one of only 4 teams with 2 guys in the top 25. Both of these guys can win one-on-one, and it's impossible to double team both of them. The Texans defense was good last season, mostly thanks to these guys, and I think that will continue in 2025. Indianapolis Colts, Jonathan Taylor. Another team where I decided to pick one player as their biggest strength, and that's Jonathan Taylor. I would have gone with the run game as a whole, but Anthony Richardson can't stay healthy, and I don't think Daniel Jones is quite good enough to make the run game as a whole their Colts' biggest strength. But Taylor is one of the best running backs in the league and has been for some time. In 2024, he finished 4th in the NFL in rushing yards with 1,431 and 9th in rushing touchdowns with 11. Taylor was and has been the focal point of the Colts offense, and that is definitely going to continue in 2025. Jacksonville Jaguars, the linebackers. The Jaguars didn't have a lot to choose from, but ultimately I decided on their linebacker room. Foyesade Oluokun has been one of the better linebackers in the NFL for a few years now, and Devin Lloyd is one of the best run defending and tackling linebackers in the league. The Jags don't have a premier linebacker room or anything like that, but I definitely think it's the best part of their defense and should be rock solid once again in 2025. Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. I'm not going to overthink this one. I'm just going to put the guy who led the Chiefs to 3 Super Bowl victories and 7 AFC championships in 7 seasons. The numbers may be a bit down the past couple seasons, but there's no denying Mahomes is still one of, if not the best quarterback in the league. Regardless of the roster around him, Mahomes will always elevate the Chiefs enough to the point where you can't help but call them Super Bowl contenders every season. Las Vegas Raiders, the D-line. This one was pretty obvious. Any D-line with Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins is probably going to be a team's greatest strength. Both are 2 of the best at their respective positions. Plus, Malcolm Koonce is a decent number 2 opposite of Crosby, assuming he can bounce back from his injury. The Raiders' defense as a whole isn't great, but their D-line is definitely capable of carrying that unit. Los Angeles Chargers, Jim Harbaugh's culture. This team has a lot of strengths, Justin Herbert, the run game, etc., but I really feel like the thing that has turned this organization around is the culture that Jim Harbaugh has established. Under Brandon Staley, this Chargers team didn't have any identity or culture, and I didn't feel like the players were as motivated to play, but Harbaugh came in and established a new culture, pushing his energetic and enthusiastic personality onto his players. The Chargers in 2024 felt like they had more life and more motivation than in years past. It's not often that a culture is a team's biggest strength, but for the Chargers, I definitely think it is. Los Angeles Rams, the passing game. Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams. Yeah, I'm kind of copying what I said about the Bengals, but the same thing applies. If the Bengals trio is the best in the league, the Rams is probably the second best, maybe third when considering the Eagles. But the point is, Puka Nacua is already one of the best receivers in the league and he's only getting better, and Devontae Adams may not be his 27-year-old self, but he can still absolutely play. This is going to be an incredibly dangerous passing attack, and honestly, I wouldn't at all be surprised if Stafford leads the league in passing yards in 2025. Miami Dolphins, offensive playmakers. Similar to what I talked about with the Bears, the Dolphins' offensive weaponry is really good. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle may have had slightly down seasons in 2024, but they still form one of the best receiving duos in the league. Devon Achane is a great young running back, and Jonnu Smith broke out in 2024 and has established himself as a really good tight end. Plus, they have Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, who's a touchdown machine, and Jalen Wright, who's a talented, explosive second-year running back. The Dolphins have a lot of playmakers on offense, and assuming Tua can stay healthy, I expect that side of the ball to be really good once again. Minnesota Vikings quarterback situation. When I say quarterback situation, that's just my fancy way of describing the offensive players and scheme around the quarterback. And I think it's no debate that the Vikings have the most QB-friendly situation in the league right now. Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason are one of the best running back duos in the league. Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison are arguably the best receiver duo in the league. TJ Hawkinson is one of the best tight ends in the league. And the Vikings' revamped O-line is also one of the best in the league. Oh, and Kevin O'Connell might just be the most QB-friendly coach in the league. JJ McCarthy has top players at every position around him, and the Vikings have done a great job of making McCarthy's life as easy as possible. Now he just has to go out there and show what he can do. New England Patriots, Mike Vrabel. I didn't really feel like there were any defining strengths on the Patriots roster, but I do think that if they're going to win a significant amount of games in 2025, it's going to be because of Mike Vrabel. He's going to come in here and establish a great culture, and I think he's going to do a much better job at leading his players than Gerard Mayo did. Plus, Vrabel's defenses have consistently been in the top half of the league, regardless of talent, and I think he'll be able to get the most out of his players like Milton Williams and Christian Gonzalez. I really like the Mike Vrabel hire, and I think he's going to help turn the Patriots around. New Orleans Saints, the linebackers. The Saints are another one of those teams that don't really have a lot of strengths, but if I had to pick one, I would say their linebacker room. Despite being 36 years old, Demario Davis still continues to play at a high level, and P. Werner is one of the better linebacker twos in the league. Plus, they drafted Danny Stutzman in the 4th round, who's a talented player. I'm not sure how much longer this room will be a strength, considering the age of Davis, but at least for now, they are the best part about the Saints. New York Giants, the D-line. This was a no-brainer. The Giants have one of the best D-lines in the entire league. Dexter Lawrence is the best D-tackle in the league. He's absolutely unblockable one-on-one and completely clogs up the middle of the line. And off the edge, they have Brian Burns and Abdul Carter, which has the potential to be a very dangerous duo. Plus, Kayvon Thibodeau is still hanging around, and if he actually wants to prove he was worth the 5th overall pick, that would be great, and then the Giants would have a great edge trio. Like I said, the Giants D-line is one of the best in the league, and should hopefully help their defense be a lot better than it was last year. New York Jets, the pass rush. The Jets are a dysfunctional franchise, we all know that, but they do have a really good pass rush. Quinnen Williams is obviously one of the best D-tackles in the league, and though he can't defend the run to save his life, Will McDonald is a good pass rusher. They also have Jermaine Johnson, who has the potential to be another really good pass rusher. The Jets have a lot of things wrong with them, but they will be able to get after the quarterback. Philadelphia Eagles, the entire offense. Okay, I know I said I didn't do the Broncos' entire defense because that was too general, but come on, I can't leave anybody on the Eagles' offense out. Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, they're all some of the best at their respective positions. Dallas Goedert is still a great tight end, and their O-line might just be the best in the league. The Eagles' offense as a whole is absolutely incredible, and they're likely going to be one of the best in the NFL yet again. Pittsburgh Steelers, the edge rushers. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think the Steelers have the best edge room in the NFL, and I don't think it's particularly close. TJ Watt is TJ Watt. We all know he's one of the best edge rushers in the league. Alex Highsmith would be a number 1 on like half the teams in the league, and is probably the best number 2 in the league currently. Plus, Nick Herbig and Jack Sawyer is great depth, especially Nick Herbig, who has been a really productive pass rusher whenever he's played. The Steelers have had good defenses for a long time now, and their edge rushers are a big reason why. San Francisco 49ers, offensive playmakers. The 49ers playmakers on offense aren't quite as good as some of the other teams I've talked about that have this as their strength, but they still have a really good group. Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, and Ricky Pearsall form a pretty good receiving core. George Kittle is the best overall tight end in the league, and Christian McCaffrey can hopefully return to his prime form after a whole offseason to recover from his injury. Overall, this is one of the better group of offensive weapons in the league, and the 49ers offense should be pretty good provided everybody stays healthy. Seattle Seahawks, the secondary. The Seahawks were tougher than I thought to find defining strengths, but I ultimately chose their secondary because it is really good. Devon Witherspoon is one of the best young corners in the league, and Reek Woolen is streaky but overall a good corner as well. Plus, Julian Love and Kobe Bryant are both good safeties. defense. Overall, the Seahawks secondary is really good, and they should be a tough team to pass against. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the passing game. Just like the Ravens and the Bengals, the Bucs have an elite quarterback receiver trio with Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin. Mayfield threw for 4,500 yards last season, and there's a good reason why. Plus, the Bucs also have Jalen McMillan, Rashad White, and Emeka Egbuka, all of which are good receiving options. Baker Mayfield has a ton of people to throw to, and the Bucs are probably going to have one of the most potent passing attacks in the NFL. Tennessee Titans, run defense. The Titans have very few strengths, but they should be good against the run. Jeffrey Simmons is obviously a very good D tackle, and 360-pound Devondre Sweat is also a really good run defender. They also have Sebastian Joseph Day on their D-line, who's a solid run defender. Cody Barton is good in run defense from the linebacker position, and all of their defensive backs are decent to good in run defense. The Titans aren't a good team, but they should be good at stopping the run. Washington Commanders, Jaden Daniels. There were a couple options for the Commanders, their O-line or their receivers, but ultimately I went with Jaden Daniels, who after just one season is already a top 10 quarterback and easily could be top 5 by season's end. He is the main reason why this team made the NFC Championship last season. His dual threat ability and incredible accuracy is dangerous, and overall, he is the defining strength of the Commanders. But that's it. That is every NFL team's biggest strength heading into the 2025 NFL season. Where do you agree? Where do you disagree? Comment below. If you enjoyed this video, then please drop a like and subscribe if you're new, and that's it for me. See ya.